A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to a new episode here at the Facebook Live. I just want to double check if you can see me. If you can see me, please say hello here in Facebook Live. I'm just double checking if everything is working. Everything is working perfectly well and fine, because I cannot see myself yet on the Facebook Live. Can anybody see me? Please put in the comment box, say hi, say hello. Not yet, huh? Okay, so I think we have a little technical problem here. Let me just put this back on again. Oh, working just fine. Okay, thank you so much. Very outstanding intro. Thank you, Andrew. Woo. Okay, proceeding with what we're doing today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, very welcome here at CZX Live. A very special edition to you, coming to you with a very special guest, of course. One of our fine players at Cornerstone. We have none other than John Agama here with us tonight, and he will be talking a lot about commercial real estate. What's the difference with the residential real estate? And lots of why people actually invest in commercial real estate, and a lot more other things. But before we get started, just do me a huge favor and just share this with your friends, your partners, your colleagues, with your dogs and cats, because they would really want to see this session. John and I have prepared this for quite a bit, making sure we give all the value to you based on what is happening in the commercial real estate market. And on top of that, what big difference do we actually see with the residential market? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the one and only real gentleman that works in the commercial real estate department of Cornerstone Estates. Please help me welcome John Agama. Good evening, John.
Hi guys, how's it going? How's the lockdown
good.
coming along?
How the lockdown is coming along?
The MCO, yeah, I know everyone's stuck at home. That's how it is.
That's how it is, yes. So let me reverse that question. How have you been so far?
All's good, eating well, food's plentifully available, enough freedom to do what we need to do, lots of hobbies to pursue.
Okay, so one of those hobbies, I assume, is cooking then, right?
Yes, cooking would definitely be it. We all need to eat well.
We all need to eat well, that's definitely for sure, right? So John, just getting started, right? As more people are coming in, some people know you, some people may not know you. We have people from Cornerstone here, but also from outside of Cornerstone. So maybe you can give a brief introduction. Who is John Agama?
Okay, well, I'm 40 years old now, this year. So I began my career about 17 years now in the corporate sector, primarily in corporate communications. Of that 17 years, I spent about 12 years of that in corporate conglomerate, Sime Darby primarily. I spent, 4 years in energy and utilities, primarily involved in corporate communications. Another 5 years in Sime Darby Industrial. So some of you would have heard of brands like Caterpillar. Yeah, there's Kubota for those of you involved in the agricultural or familiar with the agricultural sector. Kubota and New Holland agricultural tractors are basically 80-90% of the market in this country.
Yeah.
All of that sold by Sime Darby Industrial. So the remaining year plus 2 years was involved in Northern Corridor. I did a lot of corporate, moved around a bit here and there, but primarily within the conglomerate. 5 years of the remaining of my career was in consultancy, public relations consultancy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I joined Cornerstone in 2018, and I took the lead from Lionel Saw. He's my team leader. So he's the head of sales for industrial land and buildings. We started at the same time. Currently, we're principally involved in the sale of agricultural land in Cameron Highlands. So that's what we've been doing for the most of it. So if you've not seen me in the office for a long time, or David, or Lionel for that matter, we've mostly been in Cameron Highlands.
Yeah. Okay, very nice. And it's true, yeah, we have not seen you that much in the office, but you know, at one side that is a pity, of course, because we wish we would see you a little bit more. But at the other side, we also know, after speaking also to Lionel and hearing it from other people within Cornerstone, you guys have been extremely busy, you know, doing a lot, like you said, agricultural land, and on top of that, things have been picking up quite a bit, you know, over the past few months, you know, touching on with a lot of clients and traveling a lot, yeah, you know, and we touched on that with Lionel also. So very interesting. Thank you so much for that introduction, right? Now, moving to, like you under Lionel, together working in the commercial side, right? There's a department in LB, industrial land building. So based on the commercial side of real estate, right? Let's touch really on commercial. What is really the big difference between commercial real estate and residential real estate?
I think the fairly obvious the fairly obvious differential factor to everyone would be the transactional value between commercial real estate and residential. You're looking well into the millions for a typical property, a typical commercial real estate property, and really, based on the performance review for the property sector, you're looking at about 63-64% of all the volume that transacts in a year of 2019. Attributable to the residential sector. The remaining would come from land and commercial real estate. But not a lot of agents are able to succeed in this. Commercial real estate is often regarded as a sector in real estate that's easy to do but difficult to master. There are very technical aspects to what commercial real estate is about. I think you can safely say that you need to have in mind what the regulatory requirements are when you want to transact commercial real estate. Even by changing hands, you need to get the lawyers involved right from day one. And because the items are so large in value, there is a lot at stake. Misrepresentation is a very big issue in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say, Taco, that every day is a different beast to slay. It's different if you were to sit in a gallery selling a condominium. So you know there are like 8 types or something like that, you know, and versus in commercial real estate, when we try and sell land in Cameron Highlands, every lot is different. It's a different acreage. It's a different gradient in your incline, in your slope incline. There's a P&L that they need to watch, that your clients need to watch, because it's an investment that they want to reap the appropriate ROI, the return of investment. So there are a lot of things that are happening at the back of your client's mind that you may not be able to see unless you understand their business very well. I hope that answers your question, Taco.
That definitely answers my question. I'm so happy you answered it in that way, you know, very detailed. Thank you for that. So again, in the meantime, more people have come with us live here. So very quickly, welcome to everybody. Welcome in the audience. Please send us a little hello here, because we are here with John Agama, a real estate agent here with Cornerstone Estate, mainly specialized in the commercial department. And if you have any question for John would be super happy to answer that question for you. So if you have a question, He will do your best, you know. He will. I always know that John does his best, but on top of that, make also sure that if it is something related to real estate, something with commercial real estate, whatever it is, you can ask that from now onwards. So again, welcome everybody. Moving on, you were talking about, okay, so we know a little bit now the difference, commercial real estate, residential real estate. A lot of agents out there kind of do both. They think they put everything under one umbrella, and they do a little bit of residential, they do a little bit of like residential, a little bit of commercial, right? What would you say that commercial is really like a specialized area, and it's very hard to do both sides of that real estate sector, like the residential and the commercial?
Unless you are technically sound, you know, you've been exposed to a lot of how industries work, you would be ill-prepared to speak to business owners on how their business runs, because you need a very, you need a reasonable understanding of how value chains work. So like if you want to sell vegetables in Cameron Highlands, you have to know what the operating cost per acre is, because they need to service their loan. And if they can't service their loan with how much they can grow, I don't know, chrysanthemums for prayers, which is a typical business model in Cameron Highlands, and they make about 6 to 8K per acre per month.
Yeah.
And if that's not enough to cover the bank loans, then they won't buy from you. The numbers don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So for you to part-time and, you know, maybe you want to do gallery duty, and you want to do a bit of sub-sale with your residential properties, and, you know, maybe hopefully get lucky and sell a factory along the way. Look, you can. No one's going to say you can't. There's no hard and fast rule. It's easy to do. It's difficult to master. So we've dealt with Lionel, through Lionel, we've dealt with many individuals who have asked us very unusual questions. I want a factory lot for a central kitchen. I can only have a particular kind of neighbor. No heavy industry, no noise, no dust. And that's so niche. So, yeah, you know, unless you really understand what a central kitchen is, you won't be able to close a deal.
Yeah.
You only get lucky if you happen to have that right property at the right time, and you speak to the right client, and yay, you got a deal.
Yeah.
So the deals don't come often. They don't come easy. Yeah. It's a buyer's market. So if you want to do commercial real estate, you got to be really technically sound and patient.
Nice. Nice. What attracted you to go into that direction of commercial, right? Because like you said, you joined Cornerstone in 2018. You joined together with Lionel back in the day, you know, setting up this department. What part of commercial attracted you the most?
Lionel said that he would do that, and I believed in Lionel. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it was in Lionel we trust. So his direction was to do industrial land and buildings, and he carries with him about 17 plus years, I think, of experience in various fields. Yeah, it's a mixed portfolios that he's had extensive experience in, and he said that, you know, commercial would be the way to go. And I've always believed that nothing easy is worthwhile doing. If everyone can do it because it's easy, then you're not going to get anywhere. You'll be competing with a heck of a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Lionel, good job there. He's definitely watching, so he'll be happy with that. Moving on, right? You know, since that you've been working in the commercial, you know, in the commercial area of real estate, you know, what type of people actually invest in commercial, and why would you invest in commercial? Why not just keep it to residential? Residential is simple, you know. You either collect rent or you collect, you do some capital appreciation, right? That is usually the two ways in residential. Why would you go into the hustle and fuss of commercial?
You know, for smaller time investors, I have, okay, like for myself, I own about, I don't know, 4 or 5 residential properties. And I find that running tenancies, 5 tenancies at a time can be a bit of a hassle. Yeah. So at some point in time, you may want to consolidate as you grow your investment portfolio, and commercial is really the way to go. Now, I'm just speaking from my personal point of view that a simplified investment portfolio may be the way to go if you want to grow your investments. And when you go into commercial real estate investment, it's actually simplified in terms of tenancies. It's either you get a tenancy because your location is good and the tenant stays long term. Like take banks, for example. They don't change their branch location every year or so, but yeah, you may lose a residential tenancy every year, every 2 years, they're gone. Yeah. So commercial real estate investment in terms of tenancy is a fixed deposit. Not only do you hedge against inflation because your capital appreciation kicks in, but you also have the tenancy that will offset your bank installments. So that's one key difference that makes commercial real estate investment quite attractive. The other thing, of course, is that, like I said, it's a simplified investment. And if you're going to invest in land, that's a whole new different ball game, because land investors are hedging against location as well. There is a trend for plantation owners or agriculture plantation landowners to buy large tracts of land and eventually wait for residential and urbanization to come closer to them, and then they open up large tracts, large estates, so-called community developments. This is one way where landowners suddenly benefit from co-developing into estates. That's a subject on its own, but yeah, I mean, if you want me to get into that, I could.
Well, it is definitely interesting because it's really, for many people, something that they don't know about, or or even what they heard about, right? So basically they kind of team up together, basically, right?
Let's just put this as an analogy. There's this gentleman that we met through Lionel's introduction, and he owns something like 20-30 acres in Rawang. Okay? Yeah. And he himself, he runs a business, an apparel business. He has no idea how to build a factory, how to run a construction site. He has no skill set on that. But he owns this piece of land, and now he wants to develop it because urbanization, there's a lot of development that's nearby his tract of land now. 20-30 acres is great. So he teams up with a developer, and the developer has the necessary skill sets to build and run a construction site, to run a project. Teams up with this guy. This guy builds an industrial estate, and the industrial estate is now up for sale in terms of individual units. This gentleman will get an offset of maybe like 20-30 factory units, and that's for him to keep or to dispose of in any which way he pleases. So that's one way of how a real estate investment is realized, that you don't just buy the land 10 years ago and then you sell the land today, but you actually develop it, so you advance in the value chain. Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. That seems to me like a deal like that you don't negotiate in 2 days. I think that that is a lot of talking, going back and forth between parties, and then quite a decent amount of legal work, I would guess. Yeah, plenty. I mean, the construction process itself takes about 5 years. Yeah. You know, easily, from planning, permits, road, all the way to piling, construction, and then after that your CF. Yeah. Then there's the sale, the actual selling of the unit. And even then it gets a bit competitive, because the developer is selling units and the owner is also selling units, and he's got 20 to dispose of. So he may want to decide that he will take advantage of take a price advantage over the developer. So there's a whole ball game to that as well.
Yeah. So like your role there, right, in a deal like that, or in all those conversations, or role obviously is the negotiation part, but also bringing the people closer together, advising on the legal work. I guess you have to be pretty patient, right, in that kind of in those kinds of deals specifically.
Yes, you'd have to be extremely patient, because the realistic picture in last year's commercial real estate environment is that you'd only get maybe a handful of factory industrial deals that will actually be realized. There's a lot of inquiry, and there's a lot of undercutting because it's so competitive. There are a lot of real estate agents who part-time in it, who dabble in it, and then they're the ones who actually master it. And then there are the people like Knight Frank, who will automatically get the deal. So I think some of you are aware that Western Digital has divested their holdings in Malaysia. So their site has gone up for sale. And it's only Knight Frank that will deal with people. There's no one else that you can deal with. It's only Knight Frank.
Yeah. That's basically also kind of the positioning that they have put themselves into for many, many years. So that is basically their specialist, right?
Absolutely. So if you are a real estate agent and you're in residential and you're thinking of dabbling into commercial real estate, you can do it. You can leverage on the existing contacts that you have. Getting a commercial listing is easy because there are a lot of buildings for sale. And being a buyer's market, you kind of need to just have the appropriate relationship, a very strong relationship with your buyer in order to land the deal. He must want you to get the deal. It's seldom about, it's definitely about skill. It's definitely about the knowledge base that you have. But over and above that, in absolute truth, also the relationship that you have with the client.
So before we move forward, right, one last question about these kinds of deals. So you need to be patient. It's a competitive market. You need to build good relationship with your clients, obviously, but till the extent that they actually want you to represent them in this deal. Another thing, what I see here is you also have to be quite creative, right, to make those deals happen. I mean, in residential, it seems quite straightforward how these deals come together, but I think in commercial, sometimes it's, going, left around, right around, there must be a way to make this deal happen, and you have to get super creative, I guess.
Yes. There are, if you know the seller well, and the seller wants to deal, the seller wants to play ball, and the buyer is willing to play ball as well, yes, you can get very creative with commercial real estate because there's a little bit more room to maneuver. In a cookie cutter environment where you're selling projects, it's difficult to get creative because of the volume. So they don't want you to get creative at all. Whereas for commercial real estate, it's a single deal. So there are many ways around it. There are many ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, interesting. What would you say to somebody that basically is thinking of joining the real estate industry and saying, I have this interest for the commercial side. Let me start there. What would you advise somebody like that?
A lot of hard work and a lot of patience, because there is only perseverance in commercial real estate, especially in the environment that we're recovering from COVID, and we don't know how long COVID is going to be around. COVID-19 is going to be around. Last year was already a very intense buyer's market. This year, 2020, is going to be even tougher. So I'm not sure whether commercial real estate will survive right now. I mean, the New York Times reported on Monday this week that a barrel of oil is now worth less than $0. It's actually negative $37.50. Am I right, Taco? Something like that?
Yeah, it was about $40, minus $40, something like that, yeah.
Commercial real estate is going to start tanking. So there's going to be there are going to be a lot of bargain hunting.
Yeah.
Buyer's market, very intense. Yeah. So if you know the buyer, he's your best friend, or you've managed to forge very good relationships, professional relationships with these people, and they know that you're in the real estate sector, then you will have a very good chance of nailing a deal.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking that marketing and canvassing out there is going to be your bread and butter, it's going to be a very uphill challenge. You must have a base, a very solid rationale of why you want to go into commercial real estate.
Yeah. Interesting, very interesting. So let's touch on that a little bit deeper, right? So of course we're in the COVID time right now. Before that, commercial real estate was already a little bit under stress, if you will. There was, but of course, commercial is very a wide area, right? Many things fall under there, like the retail, hotels. All those things fall under commercial.
Anything non-residential is commercial.
That's basically the best way to summarize it. Thanks for that. Yeah, and anything that is not residential is basically commercial. So what I'm thinking right now, John, so you say things are tanking a little bit. There are a lot of buyers opportunities out there, but a lot of people want to let go of the commercial because retail is getting a hit, hotels everything is getting a hit right now. So would it be smart for somebody to look at commercial real estate right now? Does it make sense for a buyer, for an investor to put its money into commercial real estate?
Yes. So the buyers who have an accumulated wealth that are able to service these loans or manage their P&L, their profit and loss, their balance sheets well, now is a very good time, or maybe even 6 months from now would be a very good time to bargain hunt, and you would get things at fire sale prices. Yeah. So it is especially a good time. But don't expect this and this applies both for residential and commercial. Don't expect high demand areas, don't expect prices in high demand areas to tank. We have been waiting for Mont Kiara and Hartamas prices to tank for more than a decade, and there's no such thing. The price is just so difficult to budge. Whereas in low to medium demand areas, you find that prices are a bit more amiable to move, and the ones that are, that have their businesses in trouble due to low demand, these are the ones who would be closing shop, or they would be forced into a fire sale scenario. Yeah. So yeah, they would definitely see some movement there. For, like I said, it's a buyer's market, and if you know the buyer, then you can get the deal. If you don't know who the buyer is, you gotta do a lot of networking to get the right buyer who has that accumulated wealth and he's looking for a bargain. Bargains will be easier to come by in 6 to 8 months. Yeah. I mean, the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, they reported about a month ago, that Malaysia is set to lose 2.4 million jobs this year. So a lot of residential units may also see, you may also see a lot of movement in the residential sector because people are letting go a lot of micro investments. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, very clear. So yes, it's going to be interesting definitely for buyers, people that have capital, that want to move capital, that want to protect capital, to put that into commercial real estate, or basically also residential. They can look at, depending on where they can get the best bargains. But on top of that, let's go to the other side. Let's go to the existing commercial owner, right? The person that has the commercial property right now. What would you advise somebody right now in this current time? A commercial real estate owner, I'm gonna assume that you're talking about someone in the commercial like shop, lot, and retail, or factory.
Let's start there.
Yeah. So in this situation, these guys would probably be tenant dependent, and you may have a drop in tenancies because of the demand. The demand is very soft. In this event, if your P&L is okay and it's still healthy, you got a good cash flow, hold your investments and weather it out. If you sell, you will be forced to sell at fire sale prices. So if you bought low, a good time to sell would be sooner than later. If you bought high, you're gonna have trouble moving your investments. It's gonna be difficult to at least get back what you spent. Tenancies would be difficult to come by. A lot of SMEs are very challenged right now. So these guys are your tenant base.
What about, so like there was retail, what about, let's say, small offices and people that have office units?
There's already an existing glut for office spaces in the Klang Valley. Most of the small units would be occupied by SMEs. And like I said, SMEs are the ones having the most stress right now. I have a friend who's spending, well, he's no longer an SME. He's large now. He spends 2.2 million on payroll. He has about 2,000 over employees under his wing. So he's making no business, no revenue for the past 1-2 months now, and he's paying 2.4 million, 2 point something million per month. That's crazy. Yeah. So he will be forced to have a hard look at his business and decide whether he needs to close. Because 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months, it'll still be the same thing. So these kind of property owners, you know, they may want to let go fire sale just to consolidate losses, consolidate their positions. It's difficult to make a sweeping statement on what these guys should do, because you need to have a good view of what their balance sheet is like.
Interesting. Do you believe that there's also any kind of commercial real estate that will do well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Lazada, e-businesses, fantastic business right now. No one wants to leave home, everyone still wants to shop. So Lazada will be doing really well. Actually, a certain sector that's doing well right now is bulking. Because business is so bad, you need to put your commodity somewhere. And bulking is a very good sector to look at right now. People want tanks and storage everywhere. So even oil tankers all over the world right now, they're full. Because oil is worthless. To sell it, you have to pay money. So they would rather store it and wait and weather it out. So I'd like to draw on Cameron Highlands as an example of something unusual, because you and I both know, I mean, if you've not been to Cameron Highlands before, Cameron Highlands does not have a shopping mall. So if you want to, like, you know, take a stroll down Wanutama or shop, you can't do it in Cameron Highlands. The nearest shopping mall is 2 hours, 3 hours away. So Lazada and online shopping is very big in Cameron Highlands. I have a friend who's a postman in Cameron Highlands, and he's been at it for about 15 plus years now. He used to deliver lots of letters, but his main activity now is to deliver parcels. So he does less letters, more parcels.
Wow.
As a postman.
That's crazy. Yeah. I can imagine that. Yeah, I can imagine that over there. Yeah. So that's basically up and down from KL to Cameron Islands every delivery parcel.
The postman the Post Malaysia's services will have trucks delivering packages up to Cameron Highlands. It lands in Tanah Rata, and then thereafter the postman picks it up and then he distributes it to the relevant estates. But
Interesting.
it's the postman who has to carry post-laju parcels, and there's a very steep incline on demand of things that are bought online. Taobao, Lazada, Carousel, Muda, you name it. It's all very popular in Cameron.
Yeah.
It's all these people right now all over Klang Valley, especially the main market center. They don't want to leave home, and e-shopping becomes a big thing now.
Yeah.
And the next micro sector that's gonna gain some precedence, some prominence, would be delivery. So if you got a very strong delivery network, if you've invested very well in your fleet, now's the time for you to cash in.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. What about, people that either downsized or didn't want to invest too big into office space themselves? What about co-working spaces? Because that was quite a lift for the past couple of years, right? Every building has their co-working spaces. What do you believe what will happen there?
Co-working spaces will continue to exist. I think for SMEs it's just like residential. So for SMEs who no longer want or can afford to rent or keep their own office space, they would want to downsize into a co-working space. So it's not impossible. Co-working spaces may see an uptake. It's the same thought like residential. People still need a place to live. So maybe this family who used to rent 4 rooms in a swanky neighborhood can't buy a house, but they may opt to rent 3 rooms or downsize 2 rooms. So they still need to rent. The rental market will still be there. There are rental players who play in the region of 1,000 to 2,000 ringgit rental a month. You'll still see some volume there. I don't think that's going to go away. But you will see a lot of downward pressure on rental that's 3,000 and above, 5,000 and above. They may not be able to afford that luxury anymore, and they will be downsizing.
Okay.
Some may even lose jobs, and you won't see them anymore at all.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still going to be here for a couple of minutes. So if you are still with us here in the audience and you want to ask a question to John, please feel free to do so. We're still here for a couple of minutes, and if you have a question about commercial real estate, anything that has to do with real estate, John will be super happy to answer that question. Right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for as long as Taco needs me, and Lionel.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. Land. Let's talk about land. The one thing that is limited in this world, right? Land.
Yes.
Why is land actually still so attractive?
It's a matter of fact. It's either you have the good location or you don't. So land is still very attractive, even though the market is soft. But maybe you can get away with paying a little bit less. But yeah, land will always be in demand. I think location. Land is definitely a good investment. It's just a matter of when you'd be able to realize the investment. A lot of prices that are advertised right now for land are future prices, which means you won't be realizing any upside on your ROI, your capital appreciation in the next 5 to 7 years, maybe even 10 years. So it's a give or take. I mean, you just never know sometimes.
What type of, again, going back to the type of people that would invest in land, right? I have considered land in the past, but there's like 2 things about land. One, I know that if I wait, the prices will go up, right? But it doesn't always go as fast as you would expect, right? And the second thing, if I really want to do something with a piece of land, that would require even a higher investment for me to develop something there, right? Either a house or a apartment complex or whatever it is. So, doesn't really make sense to buy land in that matter, right? Based on the long-term longevity of the investment, and on top of that, that actually land requires way more investments to basically utilize the land into a real something you can sell.
There are two ways to invest in land. You buy land and you hold it as is where is, which means getting a tenant is going to be touch and go. You may or may not get a tenant at all. Or you buy the land and you treat the land so it is ready for, you know, a tenant to occupy and generate an ROI.
Yeah.
So we face a lot of this in Cameron Highlands as well, that there are some plots of land that we sell that are very, that have already been managed, they've already been developed. So they're flat, they've got irrigation, they've got water, and they have a road, a very accessible road, a very reasonably accessible road that someone can just move in, tenant, grow vegetables, get an ROI. And that's quite preferred. So unless you have the expertise to buy the land, hold it, and make money out of it through a business model, then that would be the most preferred. If you don't, then get land that you can tenant out. And if you can't, and you are bargain hunting and you want to buy land that's cheap, 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 and far, 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 there's not much that you can do with it but wait. And if you play the wrong strategy with waiting on land, it could end very badly for you. I think a lot of Malaysians are still familiar with the Bukit Beruntung story, where they thought, so many people thought, that the KLIA airport would be in the northern region, and they all bought up in Bukit Beruntung. And it turned out to be in Sabah. And now they're stuck with all this land in Bukit Beruntung that's worthless. Houses there are abandoned, large estates of houses all abandoned. So it's risky to invest in land if you don't know what you're getting into. You must have a very good knowledge base on what you can expect in the next 5 to 7 years.
Interesting. So would you say that kind of buying land is a little bit like kind of speculations on the real far ahead future based on what you believe the government is going to develop, what people are going to develop? Is that the game of land, actually thinking what will happen in the future and then go ahead, buy it right now because maybe in 10, 15, 20 years there will be something there?
Yes, you'd have to observe what the trends are. I mean, no one would have known that there were so many developments in Satya Alam, for example. So now Satya Alam land is worth a lot, whereas back then it wasn't. Another good example is Kampung Kerinci, also formerly known as Bangsar South. That is also a very good speculation. You could have bought something there, or even owned residential units and condominiums there, and the price went up. So it really depends on how well tuned in you are to the market, and of course who you know, who would be able to tell you the right information at the right time. There are unique scenarios to land, like Cameron Highlands, for example. This is what I can draw upon. Cameron Highlands land is limited in terms of elevation. It's not just normal agricultural land, because this is the niche that Cameron Highlands is playing at. The only other competing agricultural land is in Vietnam, Kundasang, Ranau in Sabah, and places in Indonesia. But even in Indonesia, it's volcanic land, and overcrowding and squatting is a very big problem. So Cameron Highlands in the Southeast Asian belt is regarded as a premium. So it's knowledge like that you have, that you already know, okay, I could buy land in Cameron for, 300 to 400 per acre. In the coming 5 to 10 years, it may be so that you wouldn't even be able to get land in Cameron anymore because of the elevation factor. So you'd have to really know what you're looking at in terms of land investment, and what it's for.
Very interesting. Definitely, for Cameron Highlands, outside of Cameron Highlands, because you were just mentioning the airport, right, in Sepang. there's still quite a gap between Sepang and the city, right? And there's a lot of land in the middle there. What do you expect will happen in the next 10, 20 years there on that, basically going downwards towards the airport? Do you think that land value will go up based on how we're building right now?
In ILB, Lionel asked us to do a study. He commissioned a study for us to look at the southern corridor in the Klang Valley area. And you'd see that Saujana Putra is coming up. This is basically the demand alley for industrial and commercial real estate. I think right now, if you asked for 20 acres of industrial land in the southern belt of Klang Valley, you won't get it. There is very, very, very little chance that you'd be able to get 20 acres of industrial land in Klang Valley, south of Klang Valley. No way, because we looked very hard, and we had a client who wanted to buy. They gave us the mandate, they gave us the black and white, and we just couldn't get them a lot. It doesn't happen, no way. So that whole corridor from Bangi all the way down to Puchong and west towards Klang, where the ports are, it's difficult to get industrial land of that kind of size. You can get 3, 4 acres, 5, but to get a nice 20-acre lot,
Wow.
So if you want to play industrial land, yeah, you could. Down that corridor would make money for sure. Just gotta wait though. I mean, you gotta wait the whole coronavirus effects. You gotta weather the whole thing out.
Yeah.
That's kind of put a dent in not only the Malaysian economy, but also a lot of the region and the global economy. Everything's slowed down.
Yeah.
There are new rising stars, new rising businesses, but these rising businesses will not replace the conventional ones that are bread and butter for a lot of real estate people.
Yeah, that's a good point. I totally agree with that. As we're slowly coming to an end, John, there's two more questions. I actually have one question from our audience here. Carol is asking, do you still believe it is a good time to invest in the land in Cameron Highlands?
Absolutely, because well, truthfully, I think Cornerstone is the only agency that sells Cameron Highlands land in this manner. Cornerstone has an exclusive relationship with the owner of a formerly 800-acre tea estate, and through this relationship, we've been selling their lots for them. And like I said, Cameron Highlands is limited. It is exclusive because there aren't many other agriculture zones of this elevation. If you wanted to grow strawberries, you can't do it in your backyard, but you can do it in Cameron Highlands. You can grow lots of stuff in Cameron Highlands. We know of I personally know a lady who runs a restaurant and trading business in Singapore, and she has decided to set up shop in Cameron Highlands to teach farmers how to grow heirloom vegetables. So it's very niche, because why would you buy heirloom vegetables from Paris when you can grow it in Cameron Highlands?
Wow.
And they've managed to replicate the quality of European heirloom vegetables in Cameron Highlands. It's just that it's not being done on a large scale, so you don't see it in your local grocery store. But in Singapore, they buy these heirloom vegetables for their restaurants. So Shangri-La will drive from Singapore to Cameron Highlands to look at where the vegetables come from, the source.
Wow.
That's a fact. We can introduce you to them.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, well, you got your answer, Carol. Thank you for asking the question. And slowly we have to come to an end, John. I can talk about commercial real estate for the next 3 hours, I guess. But I don't want to take too much of your time and the time of the audience, of course. In closing, two small things, right? Coming back to being part of the commercial real estate team under Lionel and as a colleague with you, right? Again, could you just quickly, if somebody's thinking, of joining the team, right? What, let's say 2 big skills would they need to fit into a commercial real estate team?
Perseverance.
1.
And maturity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you'd really need a good head on what's happening in the world. You need to know what the value chains are like, how business is run, how property buyers think. Because for residential, the key difference being is for residential, you can sell on emotion. This is a wonderful house that your children can grow up in. Imagine your kids play in the garden. You can pull that off.
Yeah.
You can't do that with commercial real estate. No way.
Yeah.
Because it's about dollars and cents. It's about whether the numbers make sense. Okay? If it's not sensible, they won't talk to you.
Interesting. Very good.
So you gotta have that maturity, and you gotta be patient. You gotta have that perseverance, because commercial deals don't come by easily.
Nice. That's some great value there, John. Thank you so much. That perseverance and maturity, that is definitely 2 things. And 2 weeks ago, we also had Lionel here. He was kind of on the same line, there has to definitely be a sense of maturity there. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and spending some time with us together here on the Cornerstone Live every single day, what we're doing here. And it's really good to learn more about commercial real estate. And thanks for taking on this topic and sharing it with everybody. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Taco, and thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely. I have one final question for you, but not before I say goodbye to the audience first. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Give us a little thank you to John. Put it in the comment box. Say thank you, John, for sharing all your wisdom, for sharing everything that you gave us tonight in the comment box right now. That would be highly appreciated. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. And in closing, a final question to you, John. Imagine this. I would sponsor you a huge billboard on one of the busiest highways here in Malaysia. And you would be allowed to write one message on that billboard so that all Malaysians would read that. What message would you write on that billboard?
Stay home.
Okay. That one, okay, well, then we stay home, huh? That's what we do then.
Yes, right now it's stay home.
Okay.
But in jokes aside, I mean, if it's a billboard that you could sponsor, it'd probably be central on Cornerstone. I think Cornerstone is a very good platform for you to grow your rent career. So, it's definitely about a central message around Cornerstone's abilities. I haven't thought about a catchy headline. I mean, there's a 7-word rule on how punchy a headline should be.
True.
So yeah, I haven't thought of one, but yes, definitely on Cornerstone.
Maybe something like how to be successful in commercial real estate. Call John.
Yeah, call Lionel. Don't call me.
Call Lionel.
Call Lionel. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, for real. Don't call me.
Okay. Don't call John. Don't call John. Call Lionel. Lionel would be happy to talk with you. Okay, guys. Again, thank you so much for being with us tonight. It was a great session here with John Agama. I'm very happy he's being with us tonight. And just a little bit of promotion for tomorrow evening, because then we have another special guest, none other than Group CEO of Park City Group, 𝐷𝐄𝐒𝐿 Lau, will be with us tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. We are very honored, very privileged that we are allowed to interview him. So start spreading the message. We will be having a great conversation with 𝐷𝐄𝐿 Lau, and I can't wait to see you all again tomorrow. John, one more time, thank you so much. Everybody have a great evening and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.